Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Christine Williams.
And you are listening to Fiber Talk, that twice-weekly podcast for people who play with needles, thread, and stitch a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
Or hopefully stitch a lot.
Yeah. Finding the time would be nice. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good. Okay, so this week, let's see, she does Hardanger, whitework, blackwork, and can't walk past a display of silks without buying any. Okay,
That's right.
That makes her normal. Yes. Yes, it makes her normal. So this is Terri Bay of how do we say that? Terri Bay. Oh no, I moved it. I hate when I do that. Terri Bay Needlework Designs it is. It's Terri Bay of Terri Bay Needlework Designs is what this is.
Yes, it is, and that's me.
Yeah, your stuff is beautiful, and I want to stitch all of it.
Thank
so
you.
Nice going.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
This is troublesome. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Always glad to have another convert.
Yeah, we're all enablers, I think. Isn't that how it works?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Troublemakers. You started in your early 20s while kids were napping at a daycare center.
That's right. I was working at a daycare center in the summers to make more money to go to college, and the kids went down for an hour in the afternoon. They wouldn't let me read because they said that took too much attention away. So one of my coworkers handed me a cross-stitch kit and said, "Here, you can do this." And I'm not sure what part they didn't get about taking your attention away, because I found the stitching much more engrossing than the reading, but that's how it all started.
That was going to be my next question. How is that less engrossing than reading?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Okay. So you do it, so cross-stitch kits, so the standard...
yeah.
Whatever, little dogs and puppies and...
I think they were geese.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. She went the bird route. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I love the story. It's sad at one end, but the story of how you get into whitework. Tell that story, because that's
okay.
That's strong.
So, yeah. My aunt Sue Sandai was a fantastic needleworker. And once she realized that I had started cross-stitching, she's like, okay, we'll try this, try some more. And she was in the Embroiderers Guild of America and was taking a correspondence course in Ukrainian whitework. She got halfway through it and was diagnosed with cancer and died pretty quickly. Her chapter sent her piece in to be evaluated anyway, even though it was only half done. And Jan Walters sent it back with all of these exceptional superiors, fantastic, called her an excellent technician. And my mom rolled it up, handed it to me, and said, "Finish it." At which point I panicked.
No pressure there.
I knew I couldn't live up to that at that time, because I had just started doing some Hardanger. My aunt was actually the one who had introduced me to Hardanger. And so I kind of rolled it up carefully and neatly and put it in a drawer for a while and continued working on other whiteworks, experimenting with different techniques, different things. And, and it's one of those things that every time I walked past that drawer, I could just hear that table finisher in there screaming at me, "Finish me." So I finally pulled it out, and Jan Walters had excellent directions, so I was able to I finished it up and said, "Ooh, I love this." And yeah, it went from there.
Oh man, the pressure of that though, holy smokes.
Oh, I know, because that evaluation on that piece was just glowing.
But at the same time, though, right, you have such beautiful work to use as a guide.
Oh,
right?
Exactly. Yes. And that helped a lot. It's also very fortunate that we're both left-handed, so all of our stitches kind of twisted in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, left-hander. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Outstanding. Glad to hear from you. Yes. Yeah. All right. We need to do a tally here in the needlework hobby, how many left-handed people there are, because there's you, me, Yvette Stanton, and somebody
Yes.
else. Somebody posted the other day looking for a left-handed stitching book, and then it turned out there were a couple of other books that deal with it too. So.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's a larger group than what's in the general population, because every class, it seems, I have several left-handers, and they're always tickled to have a left-handed teacher too.
Sure. Yeah. Did you ever find that challenging?
Sometimes, yeah. Actually, it's more challenging when I'm teaching,
Oh.
because a lot of the people I'm teaching are right-handers.
So everything's backwards.
Yep. I've learned to do a lot of my demonstration stitches. I do them with the right-handed directions with my left hand. Sometimes I do them.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah,
that's talent.
I'll do them across the table from someone. So then I'm doing them with my left hand, right-handed, and upside down.
So you become a mirror, though, so it kind of works out well.
Pretty much. Yeah, there's a few things like hem stitch I can't do that with. It makes my brain hurt. They just have to look over my shoulder on that one, because I just can't do it. But yeah, it gets, and you have a little bit of an advantage, I think, being left-handed, because we have to use our right hands a lot just in everyday life, because
Yes.
so many things are made for right-handed people.
Yes. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're probably more ambidextrous than we realize.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Well, and I think stitching kind of lends itself to that anyway,
Yeah.
because, especially if you have one hand on top and one hand beneath, or stitching with a sewing machine, you're essentially, there is no handedness to that. You just do it, right?
Very true. Yeah.
So I think you kind of get used to. I mean, the scissors, obviously, that's a tricky one. I don't think I could cut with the other hand.
Yeah, I don't do that
That's
either.
really hard, right? That would be really difficult. But I think stitching. See, now I'm gonna have to sit here and stitch and see if I can switch hands and put the other hand on the top and one hand on the. I'll do that every once in a while just to see if I can, because I don't know why. I just do. But I think it's good, because sometimes you just can't fit your hands in the spot you need them to, So it's good to have a little bit of flexibility.
And if you do anything that's curved or three-dimensional, sometimes it's just easier
Yes.
to use one hand or the other depending on which direction you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that ambidextrous part, because I was reading in this thread, whatever the thread was, a couple of people posted where they had tried stitching on a stand with one hand above and one below, and they just couldn't make the other hand work. It just wouldn't work for them. And I never had that problem. It just worked. It just did.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah, I don't give it a second thought. So to imagine, for me to imagine that the other hand just won't behave underneath the canvas is hard. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. That's surprised you get so many left-handers, though. That's neat.
I do. I think, if I remember right, it's about 10% of the general population.
Yeah.
And I would
so.
say it's about 30% of my stitching classes.
Wow, that is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that 10%, that's about right. Yeah. Huh. 30%. Wonder what attracts us.
Well, is it because there's always that thing about how more left-handed people tend more towards the arts and things like that. So maybe, is it that?
Yeah, it probably has something to do with that, yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll take that.
Well, in honor of both of you, I'm spending the rest of the podcast stitching left-handed.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
She'll have a cramp in one shoulder that won't go away.
No, I'm going to do it. I'm very stubborn.
Okay.
That always helps.
So you run into your aunt basically foists. Even before she died, she was putting whitework in your hands. Did you have an affinity for it, or was it just something you did because it was a family thing, and then eventually you grew to like it?
I think it's mostly the affinity for it. I had seen some of what she'd done, and then, well, the big kicker on getting me into Hardanger was we moved to North Dakota.
Uh-oh.
So my local needlework shop was Nordic Needle. And yeah, that did it. So one Christmas I told my parents, okay, I want to start doing Hardanger. So what I want for my Christmas is a startup kit for Hardanger, which they told Aunt Sue that, and apparently she was like a kid in a candy shop. Because my parents said, okay, you can spend this much, go get her needlework supplies. And
oh, no.
she apparently had a great time doing that. And then, too, when we would get together, we'd do hints and tips. At this point, I was living in North Dakota, and she was in Indiana, so we didn't it was only a couple, 3 times a year, but yeah, we'd always have needles in hand when we got together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fun family gathering. Where's Terry and Sue? Oh, they're stitching. Just leave them alone. Don't bother them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So then you latch onto this thing, and then designing. I'm always intrigued by that, because we talk to a lot of designers and that transition to design, and how does that come out of you? Yeah.
Hardanger lends itself to it because you'll get your clusters done, and then you cut the threads, and you need to do a filling stitch, and after a little while you prefer doing some stitches over others, so you're like, oh, I don't like that one, I'm going to put this one in instead. And that's kind of the start down the slippery slope. The second part was getting into the Ukrainian whitework. Discovering it, I said, I love this, I want to do more. So I got on my computer, did the lovely search, and my computer basically shrugged and said, nope, got nothing. There was not at that time any books currently in print, and very little out there. So I was pulling up some historical plates. DMC had some historical plates and a couple of the out of print books. And it's like, if you want to do this, then you have to start putting some of these things together and doing it yourself. So that's kind of, it was necessity.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah.
What did you use as reference material then to know whether or not you were staying true to the original style?
Originally it was, I would Google search and I could come up with images.
Mm-hmm.
So I could look at the images and figure them out. Then Gay Eaton came out with her book about that time, which was just loaded with pictures and projects. And then I found Tanya O'Neill's book from the 70s, which is kind of like a stitch Bible for Ukrainian whitework. And just putting it together. And once I started my Facebook page, the fun part is on my business page, I now have a large section of women from Ukraine that follow my work, and they've told me which region my work looks like and whether I'm staying true to it or not. And yeah, they're keeping me on my toes.
Well, how fun is that, though?
That's great. I love it.
Yeah. Got people from the motherland keeping you on the straight and narrow. That's great.
So then I started putting bits and dabs together, and this was after Nordic Needle had started up their retreats, and I was showing it to Roz and Sue, the owners, and they said, oh, well, our theme next year is stitching around the world, so could you do a Ukrainian class? I said, well, sure. I'm a teacher by training, so going from one subject to another shouldn't be too difficult. The chart writing was difficult, but the teaching wasn't. And then people were saying, well, where do you get your ideas? And I said, well, mostly from my head. And they said, what's published? And I said, nothing. And I have people starting to bug me to publish designs, and yeah, like I said, I just kind of fell into it.
That's different. That's different. Yeah. Because you're right. It really does lend itself, because once the basics are down, then yeah, to do little variations and move on from the basics is pretty easy to do, and then it's just a matter of how far you want to go with the thing. And introducing color,
right,
of course, changes little things.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally it's white on white, but then I love variegated colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing some things with variegateds.
Do the motherland people get upset if you put color in?
I was just going to ask that.
Well, see, then I don't call it Ukrainian whitework. I call it inspired by, or in the style of. And, you know, because if it's not the real thing, I'm not going to call it the real thing.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Or one of them I've just finished up and will be for a class in 2019. I've got the white version, and then I've got 2 versions with color. So if you want to be a purist, you can do the white on white. If you want to play with color, you can do one of the color versions.
Are there a lot of purists?
They're out there.
Okay.
I don't,
Whitework police.
Yeah. Oh, heaven help me.
No,
yeah, I don't know if there are a lot of them out there, but I know there are some, and they will call you on it. So it's just best to call it what it is.
Go along for the ride. Yep. It's amazing to me. I love it, though I don't do very much of it, because it just amazes me how much you can get out of no color. Just the textures and the openings and what they do for a piece, and you look at it and your eye can't leave it, yet there's no color. And especially you know, these days we're used to having color on top of color, and it's just, to me, every time it's a perfect illustration that you don't need it. And
that's right. It's all about texture, and then the combination of positive space and negative space.
Yeah. Yep. And you do everything on traditional way, on linen with...
Yes, I do.
Silk thread? Cotton thread? What?
Most of the traditional pieces used linen, and to be honest, I am not fond of linen threads. I tend to do it with pearl cotton, partially because it's close to the original, but also it's readily available. Mm-hmm. And I don't like making people search for very obscure brands and styles of things online, because you're never 100% sure what you're getting until it's in your hands, and a lot of us don't have local needlework shops anymore. So I like to go with what's readily available.
What's linen thread like? Is it like silk, like cotton, or like nothing else?
Yeah.
Okay,
it tends to be a little more like cotton. It feels coarser to me.
Okay.
It's not, I mean, I like my pearl cottons because they've got a nice twist and a nice sheen. And the linens are a little bit coarser and just a little, I find them harder to work with, and they don't feel good in the hand to me. Mm. Of course, I'm not fond of working with wool either. I think it's a texture thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's scratchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does linen pulls and drags as you're stitching?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then with the original historicals, they worked with what they had on hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was, in many of these places, pretty much linen. So.
Well, you like it or not.
Yep, this is what you got. This is what you do.
Yeah. So so you do whitework, Hardanger, and then and blackwork. I don't know that we've ever talked about blackwork. Is that how do you get into that? Just something else to do?
Oh, I've dabbled in a lot of different things. I like taking classes just to learn the basics of a technique because everything I learn in one technique can transfer to something else and makes me a better stitcher. So blackwork is one that really clicked with me. Basically, it's lines and patterns, and I find it goes really well with the whitework, just the classic combination of black and white. And again, it can be as geometric as you want it to be, and the Ukrainian and the Hardanger are both very geometric. So it fits in well. And I like to do everything as reversible, but I tell my students if it makes you want to wad your piece up and throw it against the wall, then you can do a back stitch.
Okay.
That's fair. Thank you.
I say try it. Learn the technique. Learning the technique will make you a better stitcher. But if it makes you hate the piece, then go back to the back stitch.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Freedom to make it. Yeah. Because yeah. It's supposed to be enjoyable at some point. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. The blackwork intrigues me because I wonder when it comes to starting and ending threads, you don't have a lot of leeway there, do you?
No, not really. It depends on whether you're going for totally reversible or not. If you're going totally reversible, you have to do the crazy, invisible, sneaky stitch finish thing where you actually move your stitches out of the way and pierce the fabric threads to anchor.
Oh, okay.
If you're not going for reversible, then you can kind of weave it through the stitches you've already done.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it depends on how. I mean, if it's a piece that's going to be framed, I don't get real crazy about it. I just make sure nothing will show through on the front. But if it's like a doily or a table runner, then I try and go for the sneaky starts and the sneaky finishes.
Okay. I always wondered where those got ended. So now I know. They're underneath.
Yep.
Okay.
Underneath.
Is that in blackwork world? Is that what the purists want? Is reversible?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not every pattern can be made reversible. So it does depend on what you're doing.
Okay. No. Because the blackwork intrigues me again because there's no color. It's just simple stuff, and
right.
Ones I've seen, you're just different thicknesses of thread and just these patterns, and it's
right. And it's how dense the stitches are together to create your look of shadowing or of open space.
Yeah, and that's fun to see. Really, really sophisticated ones the shadowing and it's
yeah.
I don't know that I'd ever get that far with it, but.
And both styles originated as wearables.
Oh yes, definitely.
Didn't they? And that I think is an interesting sort of unification with them too. Is that both of them started as things that you would wear? They're just ornamentation of garments. That's one thing with blackwork that I've always been drawn to, and perhaps a little bit away from the more geometric and more towards the sort of traditional English style of blackwork. I've always thought was just stunning, and just simple, but just very, very elegant looking.
Right. One of the reasons it's also called Holbein stitch is because you see a lot of it in the paintings by Hans Holbein on the collars and cuffs.
Right. And it was because it was contemporary of that.
Right. So it's also the double running is called Holbein stitch.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and Hardanger and a lot of the more pulled and cut lacier techniques were developed to try and imitate the look of lace because of the sumptuary laws, and only certain levels of nobility were allowed to wear lace. So this was the reaction to say, okay, it's not lace, it's actually fabric, but we're going to make it look as lacy as we possibly can.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That in your classes, your Hardanger whitework classes, is the cutting of the ground cloth, is that the hurdle for most?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's when I get a beginner class and I say, okay, now pull out your scissors, we're going to cut threads. I look around the room as I say that, and I pick out the people who have the deer in the headlights look. And those are the ones that I know are beginners or who haven't done much of it before.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I think Ukrainian is more user-friendly, because there's very little cutting in that. It's mostly pulled.
Oh, okay. So that's really the difference?
Okay. Do you want the whole lecture?
Well, I am curious about because
Okay.
there's clearly a distinction, and I've not found it. I've not found it. So
Okay.
yes, give me the lecture.
All right. In terminology, Hardanger is primarily a cut work form. Ukrainian is primarily pulled and drawn thread. Ukrainian has a much stronger use of eyelets, and they use eyelets in chains and in spots, and really creative with the eyelets. Hardanger uses the filling stitches in the cutwork areas, which you don't see much in Ukrainian. The other big difference is in the edging. In Hardanger, a lot of times you see a blanket or a buttonhole stitch edging, and Ukrainians are almost always a folded hem stitch edge. Those
Okay.
are the basic ones. There's a lot more. There's little things here and there, but those are the basic. Oh, and also Ukrainian is much more densely stitched. In Hardanger, you tend to have more places where there's unworked ground fabric. In Ukrainian, it's just stitch upon stitch upon stitch with very little open fabric left.
Oh, I see that here. I'm looking now at some of your designs. Like I went to this Rhapsody in white. So,
Yeah.
okay.
There's no space between those bands.
No. Okay. Now that makes sense to me. I love learning this stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the European whitework kind of things do come from a common background. So you do see similarities in a lot of them. It's just how they develop differently over the centuries.
Well, aren't I learning something here? By golly.
Well, good.
By golly. Okay, I see that now. Yeah, because that's all virtually all pulled, right?
Uh-huh.
In that Rhapsody, yeah.
Yeah, pulled or drawn.
Yep. Or just satin stitched, or yeah.
Uh-huh. In Rhapsody, there's no cutting. None at all.
And still is frightening to beginners.
Not as frightening, no. Because if you make a mistake, then you can redo it a lot more easily than if you make a mistake cutting and then you've got to reweave fabric threads, which can be done, is doable, but is a pain.
Yeah, people say that, but I've never had to, and I ain't signing up for it either. Yeah.
At least once per Hardanger class, somebody has to reweave. I've done it myself. It just happens no matter how careful you are. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just take care of it and move on.
Oh, this is fun now. Now, see, like all your samples take on a whole different meaning now with this little enlightenment that you've given.
Oh, good.
This is why we do this, so I can learn. It's a selfish thing.
Well, good.
Yes. Yeah.
And hopefully other people do too.
Well, we can hope for that, yeah, but no, it's pure selfish. It's just for me.
All right, good.
And Christine can just sit there in New York and roll her eyes, and that's,
Yeah.
it works
I'm
like
doing
that,
no
too.
such thing. I'm sitting here stitching left-handed. I told you.
And how is that going?
Stunning.
Oh,
Well,
okay. All right, you win then.
It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's fine. I think it
Okay.
just feels weird at first, but then you quickly get used to it.
Gotta ask, I'd never seen Lotus boxes. Wow.
They're my little babies. I mean, they're just one of those things that The first one just clicked. It was one of those things that I've got several designs that I say just pretty much design themselves. That you sit down and all the pieces just come together almost without effort. And the flowering lotus box was the first one, and that's what happened with that one. The actual shape came from watching my middle daughter do some origami. And she was folding her paper around, and I looked at that shape and said, hey, I could stitch that. And so I made up a little paper example and figured out where to put things. And like I say, that one just clicked. And I finished it the night before a Nordic needle retreat. And I went in and showed everyone, and they're like, it's cute. What is it? And I looked up and said, I have no earthly idea. It just came together.
So this literally is these literally are your own creation just from scratch.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, so this is not a visual show. So for people who don't know, these lotus boxes, those stitch trays with the corners tied, one of those upside down is what it looks like to me, and then a box sitting on that with 4 triangles that are opened up, and the whole thing covered with stitching, and they're gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
You do these things in pieces and then put them together? How does this happen? And then there's a bottom to it. Wait a minute.
There's a bottom to it,
Holy
yeah.
smokes.
But wait, there's more. No, it is just a flat piece of fabric. And, well, 2 pieces, because you stitch everything on both pieces of fabric. So the center is kind of in a diamond shape. And then you stitch the sides, which are like a diagonal stripe. And then the tabs are the corners. And then you stitch those 2 pieces of fabric together, so it's like a coaster, the same thing front and back. And then basically you just kind of stitch up the sides and fold them out, and there they are. It's really, the only finishing involved is back stitching and whip stitching. It's much easier than it looks.
I do not have the spatial relation to see that, because it looks like there's about 8 pieces that all have to be assembled.
Nope, it's 2 pieces of fabric placed together. Wow. And then it's all in just the stitching the sides and the folding. Yeah, because I purposely gave it to 2 of my pilot stitches that hate finishing. In fact, one of them had refused to do it at first, and I nagged her into it. And the one is a big baseball fan, so she had the twins on. And she said, well, I got 9 innings to get this done. She said, by golly, I was done after the 2nd inning.
No. That quick?
Yep.
Wow. I mean, these things are just, they're visually very elegant and beautiful. They really are.
I like doing shapes. Once I started doing those, I started doing more trays and boxes and things. And I figure, I think pretty much all of us run out of wall space after a while.
Yeah, that's true.
So It is nice to have things that don't require a wall.
What's the long, how big are they? Just relatively small on each side? Were they 4 inches?
Yeah. When it's unfolded, just the stitching is about, with the largest one, is about 6 inches square. And then once it's folded, that base will measure 4 inches square.
Okay.
So they're not huge. A couple of I've got 6 of them now in various techniques, because that was one of my challenges, was to see how many techniques I could do with them.
Yeah.
I think the smallest is about 3 inches square. So they range between 3 and 4 inches square when folded.
Oh, man, I tell you, you got me. You got me.
Good. Excellent. Yeah. Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody listening out there, Terri Bay, needleworkdesigns.com, and there they are.
Yep.
Buy a chart. Yeah, and kind of thing that you could just do stash. It's not even going to involve a lot of a lot of
Right.
material.
No, 2 squares of linen, and then, well, depending on which one, the Bargello one uses Congress cloth
Mm-hmm.
and some pearl cottons, and there's a couple that are just cross stitch for people who don't like specialty stitches, and there's a cat in one, of course. But yeah, they really don't require a lot of special fancy things. Like I say, I like to stick with readily available supplies.
Yeah. Okay, long pauses here, folks, because I'm just drooling. No, I really did. I was so anxious to ask you about these because they look so complex and so involved and so advanced that I wondered if I even wanted to tackle one. And now you're saying to me that in a decent evening, I could be well along into having one done.
Yeah, well, the stitching takes longer because
Yeah.
you have to stitch the whole thing front and back. But the finish work it's not difficult. Like I say, if you can whip stitch and back stitch, you can do it. That's
Wow.
all it takes.
What a great gift too. Except I wouldn't give them away. No.
Because it does take a fair amount of stitching.
Yeah. Yeah, I never know about that, when you get all the stitching done, giving them away. I'm never sure about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on who they go to.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You want
Yeah.
them to go to a good home.
Yes.
Yes.
Someone who will love them and pet them and
Mm-hmm.
take good care of them. Yes.
Okay, I've learned here. Okay, well there'll be an order coming soon to your website. So you
Well,
got
lovely.
me. You got me.
Good.
You got me. And then cruises. It says in here somewhere that you've done cruises. I'm most intrigued. Okay, cruise ships don't intrigue me. Too many people.
Okay.
Just too many people.
Yeah, I can see that.
But this whole concept of going on a ship and stitching, what's a cruise stitch ship thing like? Is it
Okay.
just people sitting around, or do you do classes, or how do you do that?
Well, full disclaimer, the one I'm teaching at this fall is the first one that I'll be teaching at. I have gone on one before. The one I went on was basically just a group of women that got together that liked to stitch, and there wasn't really a class. We just got together on the at-sea days and stitched. The woman organizing it provided some kits with some special projects that we could all do together, but she was fine if we did our own thing too. These that I'm doing this fall, we have 2 at-sea days. So we have classes on the 2 at-sea days. I'm teaching those 2 days, and also Cindy Valentine is teaching. And then on the other days, you just do your short excursions or whatever and have fun. I'm sure we'll have meals together and things like that, but I'm not the organizer, so I'm not in charge of that.
Yeah. So basically, instead of sitting on the deck baking in the sun, you're sitting in a dining area or something stitching.
Right.
That ain't
Yeah.
bad.
That sounds pretty
And with-
fabulous.
Other people that enjoy stitching, and you meet new people, you learn new things. You go to fancy new places. I think it's a good deal.
That doesn't seem bad. And I'm sure snacks and drinks available at any time. Yep.
Well, it's a cruise ship.
Yeah.
So what do you do other than eat and drink? Yeah.
Never been on one, but that's what I hear is that food and drink is available at any moment. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It should be a good time.
yeah. Now, do they set aside a room for you on the ship, or is it?
Yeah, they have, most of these ships have several conference room type areas.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be in those for the classes. And I mean, several of us are bringing along spouses or friends. My husband's coming along just for the fun of it. He doesn't stitch at all, but, to enjoy the cruise, to enjoy the ports. And
Yeah.
we actually get to take a vacation together, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because I'm only working 2 days, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're not on all the time then. Oh.
No, just the 2 at-sea days are when we're teaching. Otherwise, I can just sit back and have fun. And I get paid to do it. So, there's no downside to this, really.
No, there is not.
Yeah, this is an all-around win right here. Exactly.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. Now, see, I might actually be interested. Still, they just seem like too many people. But if I could be just in a room with a few people, I'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get people stitching day and night? I mean, does it become when you're at sea, people just kind of get up in the morning and almost like a retreat, just sit and stitch all day?
You sure can if you want to. Or
Okay.
you can go, like, several of the people would do some of the cruise activities and then come in to stitch for a while. Or, I'm sure when it's with this one where we're having actual class time, we'll all be together for those, because why would you go and pay for the classes and then not attend them?
Right, exactly. Yes. One would question that sanity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then otherwise you can get together however you wish. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe.
It's really a pretty fun, relaxed thing to do.
Yeah, maybe I need to try a land-based retreat first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I love retreats and seminars.
Yeah. Do you teach a lot?
I do, yeah. It's especially once my girls got out of school, I started sending out proposals to travel, and now I'm doing a good dozen a year, which is more than enough traveling for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Yeah, once a month. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, and then it gets clumped at certain times of the year. This year my busy months are June, July, and October for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, June and July I get October. Okay.
Yeah, where'd that come from? Yeah.
But that's how the classes fall. I do not schedule in November or December because holidays, family, that's what I'm doing. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So you're bunching up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to be on the road once a month, and when it gets beyond once a month, I start
Starts
getting a little cranky.
crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me go home. Let it be done with it. Yeah. So when you teach, what you have? I see you have some designs that you teach, and all techniques. Then.
Yeah. Right now I've got them in Hardanger, Ukrainian, and then blackwork mostly. There's a lot of the others that I will design for commercial or retail charts that I don't actually teach, but those are basically my teaching classes.
Do you keep designing and then rotating those to retail and bringing in new ones, or do you hang on to your teaching?
Exactly.
Okay.
The teaching pieces, when seminars hire you, they want to make sure that your teaching pieces are not available commercially. Because that's part of the draw to come into a class, is this is the only place you can get these designs.
Mm-hmm.
So they stay on the teaching rota till interest drops off, and then they go to retail.
Okay. And that could be that could be years, could be months, could be anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm not getting as many out retail as I used to because I'm doing a lot more teaching.
Mostly guilds and...
Yeah, quite a bit of it is Embroiderers Guild of America, EGA. What else? I do a lot of those chapters. I've done some they're called sampler guilds.
Yeah, I've heard about those. That's an interesting aspect. We had a guest who was in a sampler guild down in Atlanta and intrigued me. Yes.
Yeah, Magnolia, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not too far away from me.
Do you get many stores? It seems like stores would be offering these kinds of things all the time as a way to draw people in. Do you get many of them?
Yeah, stores do. I only really started to travel about 2 or 3 years ago. It's exploded exponentially on me, so I haven't done a lot of stores yet. Obviously, I did Nordic while they were still open. Stitchville, USA, up in Minnesota, I've done, and then I've got a little local one called Pandas Crossing that I teach at sometimes. But I haven't had a lot of shops call me for retreats or things. Yeah.
Yeah, I just would think that stores would be doing those all of the time as a way to draw
Yeah.
people in. I don't. It's a space thing, I'm sure, and they're so busy,
Right.
so busy running their
Well,
store,
and it depends on how far away the teacher lives because they have to pay for our travel too. So
Mm-hmm.
that can get crazy anymore with the way airfares are going. And then if you can, they try and clump them. Like I'm going to teach at an EGA seminar in Northern California in July. And then I'm going down to Southern California and teaching for 3 groups down there before I come back. So I'll be there for 2 weeks.
Oh.
Going to 4 different places, and then they all split the travel.
Yeah.
Which helps a lot.
Sure. Yeah, because once you get out to the coast, it's easier to just stay. Yep.
Yeah, when you go from one coast to the other, you're not going to mess around.
All right, before we run out of time,
Okay.
on your blog, Veils for Rachel and Ashley.
Yep.
What is that thing?
Yeah.
The technique is Romanian point lace,
Okay.
which I've done some myself. I don't teach it because I would have no idea how to teach it. It's not something, it's something I just have been doing for fun, but my Rachel saw it, and initially she said, I want a whole dress made out of that, and I laughed at her. So then I said, well, how about a veil? And she said, sure. And this was a couple of years ago. Well, now that she is getting married in May, I am creating both for Rachel and for her fiance, Ashley. I'm doing veils for both of them. So actually what I've been doing while sitting here is crocheting more point lace cord. I had them tell me what they wanted in them. And yeah, that's one thing that I'm definitely doing left-handed and right-handed because I've got these basted on styrofoam heads. And it's crazy.
And I love how customized they are for each of the different veils, how each has their own story that it's telling.
Yep, Rachel wanted peonies and butterflies, and Ash's is lilies and dragonflies.
Yeah, I can't wait to see them as they start developing further.
They're coming along. It takes a while, but
yeah.
Finally, I'm almost to the point with Rachel's I can start the needle weaving, which is the fun part for me. That's my favorite bit.
All right, now I've got to back up here. You have this cloth over the styrofoam form, and then you have all of this cording or whatever it is. That's just basted on. That's just to hold it in place.
Yep. If you look at the pictures, all those little brown stitches you see are the basting thread. So the cord is basted on into shapes, and then you do all of these wrapped connectors to hold everything together. And then inside the shapes, then you do needle weaving patterns. Mm-hmm. And once it's all woven and put together, then I cut it off and it will be just the lace. The cloth underneath goes away.
It's going to be stunning. And they're huge for this type of project.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stitching.
That sure is. That's basically, you ask people if they get to do stitching for themselves. Well, that's my stitching for myself right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a big commitment because that type of work it's laborious. It takes a long time.
Yep. I'm putting in a couple hours a day because I don't want to be up all night the night before the wedding stitching madly. That would not be a good thing. So.
Yeah. When do they have to be done?
May 1st.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
No pressure
Which
there.
is why I'm working on them as we talk.
Yeah. They're going to be stunning, though. No doubt.
Boy, this is, because to the casual observer, to go to your blog and look at those, you'll wonder just what the heck that's even going to be. Because it doesn't make sense. And you say veil, and I think, why would I put that big piece of cloth over my head? And what's attractive about that, but then when you explain it and you see what gorgeous shapes you're going to have when you pull that off, wow.
Yeah, just look up Romanian point lace, and that'll...
It's stunning.
Yeah. Show you what they will be.
Wow. These are your own designs?
Yes.
And it's so different from other, like a Chantilly lace, because this seems like it's so much more heavy.
Yeah.
And the thread itself, just the I don't want to say quality in the sense of, you know, whether it's good quality or bad quality, but the type of thread makes it will lie differently than a Chantilly would, you know.
Right.
It won't be so fly away.
It's a cotton thread, twisted cotton, so it's very similar to a pearl.
Yeah.
And this one here is a size 20.
It's going to be pretty spectacular.
I hope so.
Very fortunate.
I've told both girls that these veils are going to tour with me.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I would
So
say
I'm going to take them around. When I teach at the EJ National Seminar this October, I'm going to bring them with me.
Good.
Have them out for display. So,
Yeah, I sure would. These are the kind of thing, you know, that old question, what do I do with my wedding dress that I had all packed away and it's still hanging in the closet and you don't want to throw it away? But, I mean, these are the kinds of things, well, you could show these off anywhere, anytime. These are impressive. Wow.
Well, thank you.
Now that I understand what's going on, it's like, holy smokes.
Fortunately, I had a whole bunch of cord already crocheted, so that part was done because that is what takes the longest, is getting all the cord made.
So it's a crochet thing then, to make all that?
Yep.
Huh. There we go. The things we've learned here from you.
Well, great.
This has been educational.
I can't wait to see them as they're, well, yeah, we'll be poking in just to see how they come along, though. So please post pictures as you go.
I will. I am. We were down in Florida visiting my oldest daughter last week, so I didn't get as much done, which is why I haven't updated lately.
How fortunate they are to have this. What a special thing for a wedding to have something like this. Oh.
Yeah, they appreciate it very much. I know they do. So
yeah,
that's part of why I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If they're
well, you know, if they were the kind of people who would wad them up and throw them in a corner afterwards, then they wouldn't get them. I wouldn't go to all this work.
Fascinating. Okay. Learning things. Fun. Yes. So your stitching area, everybody always asks me, ask the guests what their stitching area is like. Do you have a room? Do you have a chair? What do you do?
I have many stitching areas, fortunately. My favorite for the daytime, the front of my house is kind of like a turret. So I am in the bowed window part, and I've got a lovely plush chair that will swivel around with the sun, so I can have that brilliant sunlight. In the evenings here when my husband's home, I've got my comfy recliner in the great room with him. And then I also have a sewing room upstairs with all of my tables and equipment. So I'm fortunate to have quite a few places that I can stitch in. I have things all over the house, too. So
yeah, we learn that frequently from designers, that they're just everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, seems to be the norm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of confined to one corner, so... which is okay. I mean, I'm just fine with it. But how many of them, Christine? Just about all of them. Well, I'm just kind of everywhere, depending on when I. Yeah. But that's
and then
nice.
Then there's the office for printing charts, and when I'm compiling kits, then I also take over the media room and I look at my husband and say, do not touch the piles. Don't touch anything. Yeah.
And I think that's what you need to do to be able to pull all of those things off, though.
Yeah,
If you're going to
definitely.
commit that much of your life to this one thing, you really need it's the type of thing that requires stuff, So you
Right.
need to be able to put this stuff somewhere and then move the stuff around. It's not something that's you can't do it with a laptop and that's it.
Oh, no way. And that's right. I need all my stuff, right?
You do. You do.
Yes. So yeah, and that's another reason why it just didn't expand to this level until all the girls were grown and moved out, because boy, I can't imagine trying to do this with small children around.
No, because they would be into everything.
Yep.
Empty nesting is a wonderful thing.
Oh yeah.
Love the kids. Really enjoyed it when they were here, but it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, uh-huh. Everything stays where I put it now.
And that's the wonderful part right there. Yep.
Yep.
You come home and it's right where you left it, the way you left it. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Yep, exactly. And our kids were pretty neat and pretty good, but yeah, it's just nice. Yep. Yeah, and then you can be everywhere in your house with your stitching things. I'm just picturing sitting in a bow window with a swivel chair stitching according to the sun. That's nice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love having all that sun. And here in the South, we get a lot of sun, so it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in the middle in Illinois, in the middle of gray sky season, so,
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually grew up in Indiana, so I understand.
You know it. Yeah, we had the sun for about an hour, and then, yeah.
Ooh, banner day.
Oh, it was exciting. Yeah. Who turned on the lights? Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Terry, thanks so much. Oh, I'm just kind of sitting here with my wheels spinning, the things I've learned from you. This is fantastic. Yes.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Got to order a Lotus box here coming up.
Yes, Lotus boxes.
And Marga's going to just roll her eyes. Yep.
If you don't have enough stuff to last you for 300 years, you're not doing it right.
I like that.
Then I'm spot on. I think I got it. Perfect.
See, and I have something to aspire to, so.
Yeah, get going, Christine. Hurry up.
I know.
Yep. All right, Terry, that's going to be it. Thank you so much. This has been enlightening and fun. Really appreciate the time.
I had a great time, too.
Yep.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody for listening. And Christine and I will be back on Wednesday.
Care.